These are heroes.
Yeah, just it's a strange scenario. Signed above my hero.
Yeah.
That's the way it's weird.
Okay, that's it. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
The fall and rise of Matt Hampson. Where to start?
Started about 5 years ago now, when you came and saw me in hospital.
March of 2006 at Stoke Mandeville, when I was sent down to interview you by my newspaper, the Sunday Times.
Yep.
And a big day for both of us, because I'd never met anybody with a serious disability before, and you'd never met a contrary journalist who was going to ask you awkward questions. I don't think at that stage we realised it was going to turn into a book, did we?
No, not at all. I think I was quite taken aback by the media interest. Obviously, Sunday Times being a massive newspaper and a massive sporting newspaper, and a journalist coming in and interviewing me, who just played for England under 21s and not really made it onto the stage, was quite nerve-wracking for me, but also quite an honour as well. I think obviously the first time you came in, I remember your face now. You were absolutely bricking yourself, weren't you, basically?
Yeah.
And I was in my hospital bed, and I think I didn't really have too much time to think about it in the morning. I was getting up and getting ready, and I knew that I had a journalist come seeing me, and then I was lying in bed, and you came and sat next to me. With my mum was in the room as well, I think.
And your dad came later, yeah.
Yeah, my dad came later.
One of the things, I suppose, my abiding memory of that morning was something your father said, that quite early after your accident, you told him that you felt it would make you a better person, that what had happened to you would make you a better person, and that struck me as absolutely an extraordinary thing to say at the time. And I think now, what are we, 5 years past that now, I understand that now, which has been
I think with a lot of disability, or a serious disability and illness, and I feel that it can either make you or break you, and life's an experience, and I've had a hell of a lot of experiences since my accident, and I do generally feel that I am a better person. It's a very selfish upbringing, being a sportsman. You're very focused on getting your kit ready, your next game, your next meal, and I really do feel that I'm less like that now.
When we started working on it, I think we both knew it would be painful, and certainly in the early months of it, it was extremely painful, because you took a turnaround that stage quite early on, and you weren't well, so it took its toll initially.
Yeah, it definitely took its toll.
Because you had to relive it. You had to relive everything that had happened to you.
I hadn't really been through it. It was relatively early on in my accident, and I said, look, I'd love to do a book, and I hadn't really thought of the implications and what it would take to write a book, and also the emotional drain that it would have on me. I think it's been an absolutely fantastic process for me to go through. I think everyone who's been in a similar situation to myself, or who've had been dealt a bad blow, should write a book, because it really gets things straight in your head, and almost helps you move on and puts closure on a lot of things as well. And it was a massive emotional drain on me in the first few months.
Of course, one of the one of the downsides of it was how long it took to do, because we're sitting here now in your beautiful new home in Cold Overton that was built for you by your dad. But when we met first and when we started working on the book first, you were still living with your parents, and not a brick of this house had been built at that stage. So your father has built you a house quicker.
Yeah, I actually think it was a bit of a blessing in disguise. My life's moved on so much since we first started writing the book, and it still continues to move on at a dramatic pace. And I think it was, like I said before, a blessing in disguise that we could tell the full story, and a lot of things in the book have actually happened whilst writing the book. It was almost that whole process of the book moved along with my life almost.
And one of the difficulties, and our difficulties, but certainly the task that I set myself to do, was to try and understand what it was like to be Matt Hamson. You know, I didn't want, and we had this conversation so many times, I didn't want to imagine what it was like being you, and imagining what was like, what it was like had happened to you. I didn't want to do that. So that meant me, you know, millions of questions, literally. What happened? What was that like? How did you feel? How did you feel? How did you feel? And that took its toll as well. I
think the final 6 weeks that you lived with me and you wrote the book were very, very important for you to kind of get your head around what it is like to be Matt Hamson, and what it is like to live with paralysis and live with being on a ventilator. You spent a hell of a lot of time with me over those 6 weeks, and I think it did generally make the book what it is.
No, I'm actually as old as your father, so we didn't have too much in common when we set out. But one of the things we did have in common was a love of this great film, The Shashank Redemption, which is one of the big themes of the book. And I suppose we were both struck by the parallels with what had happened to Andy Dufresne in Shawshank and what had happened to you. You're both unfairly incarcerated. You've both got to live with the consequences of this, and you both refuse to be constrained with what happens to you. You know. So that was a theme that we explored, and
it was a massive thing running through the book. The book very much runs like a film script, and very much on the same lines as Shawshank, which is it's a really important thing to kind of get all the peoples in, all the characters in, so they can basically tell the way they saw me looking on the outside. And it was very, very strange reading the book, to how I was obviously in hospital, and I didn't realise how it affected people quite so much, and how many different people it affected as well. And the court scene is very important, so people can almost give their views on my accident and how it affected them.
Yeah. You've taught me a lot in the last 5 years. One of the great lessons you taught me was the inner workings, the dark arts of the scrum, and because you still love the game, and that's still your favourite part of the game, is the scrum. And as a sports lover who'd watched rugby all his life, I'd never really understood that now, but I certainly do understand how it works now, and I certainly do appreciate the scrum a lot more than when we set out on the project.
Yeah, well, it's a brutal confrontation against two sides, and the forces, especially now in the modern era of the game, are absolutely massive, that go through the guys' spines, and it is a wonderful thing when you are hammering the opposition, and 9 times out of 10 the scrum that is going forward It's the team, well, the scrum that's going forward is basically the team that will win the game, and that it still has a massive role to play within rugby union.
Okay, so your life now is different, and you've taken on some very interesting new projects, and the biggest project and most interesting project is the Hamson Foundation, which you've set up to help other people who have had their careers ended or changed through an accident or disability or whatever. But that's a big thing for you now.
The Hamson Foundation aims are to inspire and support young people seriously injured through sport. It's massively important when you're in this situation and your career's been cut short, to have support from not just financial support but the mental support from fellow teammates and fellow athletes. I feel that with my experiences and what I've been through, I can really help change people's lives.
But also for those with a serious disability, you know, the message of the book is, when this happens to you, you've got a choice to make.
Yeah.
And the choice is, you get busy living or get busy dying. And the choice you've made is to get busy living, and you've lived and are living an extremely vibrant and interesting life now.
Absolutely, and I feel that the least I can do is keep going and moving forward for all the people who've done such great things for me, and I think it'd be very selfish of me not to do that. And my message is really to portray a active and fulfilled life, even though I'm in this situation, I'm in dealt a bad blow, I'm still living a good life.
The thing that struck me most when we met for the first time, but in particular when I came back here to interview with you at home in bed, was the sound of the ventilator, the constant rhythm of that ventilator. And you know, your heartbeat doesn't come with an amplifier, so you're not aware of the constant beat of your heartbeat in the same way that you were of that ventilator, almost a constant reminder of your mortality, which is not shocking, but certainly it certainly opened my eyes. And I'm just wondering about you and what it was like for you to hear that all the time, and whether you put it out of your head or.
Yeah, I think I do put it out of my head. It's only when somebody mentions it kind of strikes home to you that you are on a ventilator. Your life depends on this equipment, this one machine. I had somebody say to me the other day, "What is that bloody noise?" I said, "Sorry, it's my vent." I get that a lot of the time, and it does strike home when people bring it up and mention it. So
right.
Thanks for mentioning it.
Okay, so there's only one question really, is what about the sequel? When do we start?